tough and chewy and can make it really hard to eat the ribs. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get a sharp knife, kind of cut a sharp thin knife specifically. You want one that has a thin blade, not like a thick chef's knife. And you'll want to cut kind of the first corner of the silver skin off of the meat here. And then from there you should be able to just kind of pull it. It's kind of slippery, so once you get it started, you should be able to just pull it off. The rest of the way it is if you run into a couple parts where it's not pulling very well, it's okay to kind of cut into it again. You will want to be careful not to cut too deep, because you don't want to cut off the meat, the actual meat parts. Otherwise you're going to have sad rabbit ribs. Okay, so just to kind of show you as an example, this is the silver skin, the membrane we're trying to remove. You see how it's really tough? Like it doesn't really rip very well, and it has kind of, I don't know if you see on the camera, but it has kind of like a silver shine to it. So this is what we're trying to remove because it's tough and it won't cook out. And so when you're cooking your meat, this will be the part that'll be hard to chew once it's done. As opposed to over here, what I left on this is just regular fat. So I'll cut a little bit off to show you. But I just left this on because it adds extra flavor, and you can cut it off too, but don't worry about getting all the white. But you see this here is just fat is just white instead of silvery. It's very squishy and it's not super tough. You can break it up really easily. So this is not the silver skin, this is just fat. So we don't have to worry about removing all of the white from the ribs, because fat's a good thing to keep on there. You can remove some of it if you're trying to have your meat a little more lean for healthy purposes. But that's why I left this still looks white, even though I removed the silver skin membrane. Just because all this white that's left on here still is just the fat. Okay, so now that we removed our membrane, or our silver skin, from the back of it, and it'll be nice and tender, we're going to do a dry rub onto our rack of ribs to help kind of like seep the flavor into it so it's nice and flavorful. So the recipe itself calls for the smoky barbecue rub from the Pampered Chef catalog, because it is a Pampered Chef recipe. I don't have that yet because I'm still working on building my Pampered Chef collection as well. So I made my own dry rub here in my little Pampered Chef bowl, and this is just a mixture of garlic powder, onion powder, salt, a good bit of ground black pepper, a good bit of smoky paprika or smoked paprika. And my husband likes his stuff kind of spicy, so I added a little bit of cayenne pepper as well, and then to help balance it out, I added some dried basil to kind of give it a hint of sweetness. So this is my dry rub that I'm going to be using. I'm going to use half of this on one side, and then the other half on the other side. If you get the smoky barbecue rub, then that's awesome. If you already have it, let me know in the comments what you think of it. I plan to get it eventually because I want to try all the different seasonings that they have and develop my own opinions for them. That way I can give people honest reviews and answers when they ask me questions. But for now, I'm just using my own seasonings. So yeah, let's go ahead and give that the rub down with the seasonings, and then we're going to cut it into fourths. Put it in a pot here and move on to the next section. Alright. Fork out of the way. Just pour half of this kind of along there. So that it's somewhat evenly spread, and then I just kind of gotta work it up and down instead of trying to work it all out, which don't get in the middle. So that'll make it a lot easier. So half of the rub on this side. Instead of dumping it on the middle, I'm trying to work all the way up to the edges because they're hard to get towards the edges. That's why I do it this way and not the line. But now we're just going to kind of gently but firmly rub it on there to kind of get it really worked into the meat. It's kind of like giving it a nice little massage. But you know, not to be afraid, and you're taking all of its troubles away before you throw it into the hot dungeon of death and cook it. False sense of security. Or for a nice little massage, just thanks for its sacrifice to your life or whatever. Just give it a little bit of appreciation, tender, loving care. Yeah, we want to try and work this to the edges. Get it nicely worked in there so it's going to be able to seep all the way into the meat. Get in between all the little grains of the meat. That way the flavor runs deeper into it. So just work our way along here doing that. If you're wondering about the ratios of my seasoning mix, I don't actually measure most of the time when I season things. I just kind of dump seasonings in that I know will be good together, and then I stop when at the sense that that's a good ratio. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I listen for the souls of my ancestors to be like, that's enough of that child. But yeah, I know if you're trying to get a decent ratio, mine is mostly the smoked paprika and the black pepper, and then it just has the other seasonings to help give it some more flavor. So like, you don't want a whole lot of salt because you don't want to make it too salty, especially since when you add the actual barbecue sauce later, it's gonna have a lot of flavors and stuff on its own, and you don't want to like oversalt that. Okay, so now that we're doing that, all the love and attention on this side, I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over and let's see the other side. You see how much darker and the orange and stuff that is over the pasta. Flip it over, and now we're gonna put the rest of the dry rub on this side, and the same thing, just a gentle massage to help get the seasoning spread evenly throughout and seep deeper into the meat. And then it also will help make the meat a little more tender as you're breaking up all the tough sinews. So yeah, now we're just gonna go ahead and do this side. Right, so now we have the rubbed in on both sides. It's time to cut it. And you don't want to just cut straight down randomly because the bone will get in the way, and you don't want to try and cut through the bone with your knife because it's really bad with your knife. So what you do is, you can see the ridges here, the bone, when you have it, the back part facing up, you can see the bone easily. And so you're going to find the ridges between the bones. So like this one here looks like you want to cut it through, and you're just going to try and cut it in between the bones. See how easy that is? It just makes it easy, and it marks it for you. You can just either cut through the middle or along the side of the bone if you want to guide and you're trying to make it more fit. So it's pretty easy to do. Just cut along the bone instead of trying to fight with it. So like right here, this bone's a little more diagonal, and so instead of trying to cut straight down, since we're flowing along the side of the bone here, angle where the bone is going, so that we're working with it instead of fighting against it. So just cutting straight because of that such an odd angle here instead of straight. Just because it makes things easier. So just in case you know if you're not one who cooks meat a whole lot or whatever, and you're just doing this for the first time. Something to keep in mind that helps keep life easier. So just cut through. Alright, this here I got hot. Nice and fancy. But as you see, because of how long the rack was, I actually have two cutting boards kind of stacked on top of each other, so that I can have a longer cutting board. That way the meat's not sticking outside of it. And so that's one of the greatest perks I found about this little thin, flexible cutting mats from Rootbeer, because they try and sell themselves on the flexibility of the mat, but really, I think the cool part is because of how thin they are, it's easy to line them up to extend instead of our 6 fluid ounces of root beer. We're going to go ahead and pour that in. Then after pouring root beer in there, we are going to go ahead and put our lid here, and we're going to put this on. Use our little dial here and select beef and pork steak, and just press start, and then we're going to let that sit there and do its thing. So what it's doing now is it's heating up, so it doesn't have numbers here, it just has a little rotating dial thing. But once it's done preheating, it will beep and it will set the numbers. Then it'll tell you how many more minutes it needs to cook. So we're gonna wait until this is done. It'll beep once it's done too. And when it's done, there's a little red peg up here that will pop up. There's a button here that will lift this thing up and it will release all the steam out of it all at once. So press it down, it'll like click, and then you can let it go. You don't have to hold it down the whole time. And then when it's done again, the peg will go back down, and then you can do that and get my little area here cleaned up. Okay, so while our ribs are cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and start my sides, and I decided to keep it simple today. So for my side dishes, I'm just gonna get a couple pieces of corn on the cob. I'm gonna butter them, salt and pepper, because sometimes less is more, keep it simple. Then I'm gonna wrap them in aluminum foil or tin foil, if you will, and I'm gonna put them in the oven to bake them. And then I also have instant mashed potatoes, which I know some people are like, oh, it's not real mashed potatoes, whatever. But instant mashed potatoes, they're quick, they're easy, they're cheap. So sometimes it's just easier to do. You don't have to worry as much about trying to sit forever waiting for your potatoes to boil. You don't have to peel them all. You don't have to try and mash them all afterwards. Have to worry about having a baby, like mine right now is sleeping, wake up in the middle of you trying to peel everything, and it just is a long process. I will one of these days for a video make with real potatoes, smashed potatoes or something, just so that you guys can see my process of how I do that. But for now, I'm gonna just stick with the instant stuff because, again, quick, easy, cheap, no reason not to. Plus, it stores for a long time, like pretty much indefinitely. So just check out my thing, here a little bit ago. Because the instructions on us to let it sit and release some of the steam naturally for about 10 minutes. So you see right here, it says 3 on it because it's already been 3 minutes since we. Until it gets to 10, and then we'll release the rest of the steam that's still remaining in there by pressing the fancy button here, so you guys can see it shoot up all the steam. We'll be back here in another 7 minutes, and then I'll show you how the steam release works to help relieve the pressure. And you can see now, because it is done cooking, the little red pig I was talking about earlier now popped up, and so we'll get back once we release the rest of the steam, then that peg will go back down once all the pressure is been released. That will be able to open it safely without getting burned or any of that stuff. So yeah, we'll be back. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes now, so we're going to go ahead and press our button here, and it's going to shoot up all the steam. And press it down to the lobster, and it'll just keep shooting up. I don't know how well you can see it on the camera with the white background. Next time that I do the video, I'll hold like a dark colored towel behind it or something so you can see the steam shoot up more easily. So you can see now the peg, it went back down. So we're just going to press the button again to release it, and then we'll be able to open that up. It smells really nice. It wants me to take the ribs out, keep them warm. So they look good too. Just put them in my little dish here and throw them in the oven where the corn is baking. So I hope of the juices that's in the pot and mix it with the barbecue sauce. So to measure it out, I already have my cup of barbecue sauce here. I'm just gonna fill it up to the 2 cups mark, and then I'll put the rest out into the sink. I'm gonna go ahead and add this all right here. Barbecue sauce, and we have our nice little scoopy spatula to help get it all out really nicely. So if you go around your curved edges in the measuring cup here. So now our sauce is done, and I do like mine a little on the thicker side than what it looked like. So I went ahead and cooked it for a little bit longer. I cooked mine for about 10 minutes instead of 5. But yeah, so now it wants us to brush some of the sauce onto the ribs and serve the rest on the side. So I'm gonna go ahead and plate everything up, and I will show you what that looks like. And we'll go ahead and give it a try. Hopefully it's really good. Here we have our finished plate. Look how beautiful those ribs are. Now we have our corn and our seasoned mashed potatoes, which I seasoned with some garlic powder, onion powder, a little bit of parsley, dill, some salt, some butter. So pretty easy. But there's our finished dish right there. So I'll go ahead and let you guys know what we think of it once we dig in. Okay, so since we tried a new recipe last night with the root beer barbecue ribs, I figure it's always important when you try something new to rate it or give your opinions about it. Me and my husband both liked the barbecue root beer ribs pretty well. I did miss our friend Mr. Maillard. If you don't know what the Maillard reaction is, it's basically the process of charring that happens when you grill stuff or bake it. It's the amino acids basically getting charred. So basically, yeah, I miss a little bit of char that you get on the edges if you had put it on like a normal grill. But it did have a section on the recipe for a specific way you could bake it or sear it or something to kind of add a little bit of crispiness to it. So maybe in the future when I make it, I'll try doing it that way. I might like it more that way. But yeah, overall it was really good. The meat was nice and tender. It fell off the bone really easily, pulled apart easily. The flavors were there. They were pretty good. Overall, I'd probably give it like a 7 or 8 beans out of 10. And if you're curious about my rating system, I decided to go with beans because baby here's nickname is Beans. So I thought it'd be cute. And I'm not gonna put her real name on the internet because safety reasons. But yeah, so Bean and I are gonna rate that somewhere between 7 and 8. So I guess we'll say 7.5. It's pretty good. We'll probably make it again sometime, especially since being in an apartment, I don't get to have an actual grill. so I can't make barbecue stuff on the grill like I would like to do. So it's definitely good change of pace, and it was nice to have ribs. So something we'll probably make again. It was pretty good. Love you too, baby. And with that, we'll say bye. Thanks for watching. Have a nice night. It was good seeing you here. Bye, B.